Shalom Aleichem Rabbi Sai. This is Yehud 11. The program is 11 at 11, heard each and every Thursday night, V'yetza Hashem, on WSNR Radio, 620 AM in New York, in parts of New Jersey. And it's YouTube live every Wednesday evening. And you can see the replay, the archives of the YouTube on the channel 11, LEVIN, and the numeral 11. Rabbi Sai, I ask you once again to take a pen in hand so that in Yisro Hashem, a little later in the program, we can give out a number or two so that you can be a shutef in Avodas HaKadosh. Yilu Ratzin Imri Fi v'hegen libi lefanecha adonai tzuri v'gayali. May the words that I'm going to say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, be desirous to you. And it may it be for a mechal l'shem shamayim and a kiddush Hashem, in the ways that I was encouraged by my Rabbeim, the Gedolei Yisrael of yesteryear. I don't think in the history of me doing radio programs, which started in 1981, Lemismarim Pesach time. Since then, the better part of 38 years, I do not know if I ever imagined I would have to do a radio program, a video, if I would have to be a kol kaira b'midbar, to speak to the tzibur about the terrible, terrible catastrophe that is Rabbi Yechiel Kalisch, Aguda official for so many years out of Chicago, a tremendous, tremendous Chilul Hashem. And now, let us begin this program with the Omer count. Not the Omer that we say on Pesach, but the Omer, so to speak, that we are now counting the better part of 2 months. And still, we do not see that Agudas Yisrael of America and the Askonim and all the rest of the Chevra and the politicians, we do not see that they have alerted the Tzibur to the smoking gun of the threat to our yeshivas. Of course, there are many aspects to the threat, but none is probably as serious, as detrimental, and is behind so much of what the enemies of Hashem and Klal Yisrael's Weltanschauung want, as much as the promotion in all its diversity of the Mishkav Zacha agenda, which can be found, this poison pill smoking gun, in 801A. I've been speaking about it for the better part of 2 months. Do you think that Agudas Yisrael, my good friend Rabbi Yerucham Silba, that I thank him publicly, that even though I criticize him, he affords me at least an opportunity somewhat to communicate with him my feelings and importance. And Rabbi Yerucham was unaware. He was unaware. The point man, the lobbyist for Aguda, upstate New York, was unaware a little more than a week ago, unaware of 801A and of the ramifications. Simcha Felder, the man who sponsored that yeshiva bill that's now being overturned on its head in the state Senate, where he is a virtual pariah, where they sit him in the seat of the just recently exiting from prison Oisvav Carl Kruger, State Senator Carl Kruger, who had promised Rav Avigdor Miller when he was running for office that he would vote against the Mishkav Zacha agenda, and then in his final terms, he helped vote for marriage, and Hashem gave him a trip to the clink. He's just getting out now. And the hilarious in the State Senate, who have pariahized Simcha Felder, who was caucusing with the Republicans, and now the Republicans are not in power, and the Democrats have him tiftaya, and if they have their way, they'll probably try to redistrict out Felder and destroy the Orthodox Jewish seat that Felder has. They'll redistrict it, they'll split it up. The same way, because of that video that's going around for a few weeks with the tow truck and the cop The cops have been taking the comma tremendously and ticketing on Shabbos and parking and measuring and an inch into the driveway and everything else. The same thing, Moirav Rabbeisai, the same Nikomedika. They're doing that to Simcha Felder, and so they put him to sit in Karl Kruger's seat. You hear? Simcha Felder also didn't really know about 801A. These people are not on top of their game. Why is it that associates of Yehuda Levin go voluntarily up to Albany on their own dime, on their own time, and they have to do the work and the lobbying that these people who are paid close to $100,000, whether it's in salaries or as legislators, and they have staffs, and they don't fully understand. Einayim lohem v'lo yiro, seichel lohem v'lo yovinu. And today, in this further on in this program, I am going to take the opportunity to give that young man who's so self-assured, who's so cocksure, waste. He has 5 years, he has this much experience in lobbying and legislative and writing and there, and I'm going to show you schwarze weiß that Simcha Eichenstein, a good fellow, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. He does not know what he's doing, and the people he consults with, they don't know what they're doing, and I will itemize it, and I will describe it to you. But there's more than this omer. There's a second omer now. In light of the scandal, of Yechiel Kalisch, a scandal which may be unparalleled. They're saying that the gezerah against the yeshivas is unparalleled for tens of years to see such a decree in New York State, right? Let me tell you the parallel. The chet, the machdias harabim, the chil Hashem, that one of our Aguda's finest, one of their own, who they're congratulating and they're still tweeting about and they're still propagandizing about, the chil Hashem of Yechiel Kalisch will go down in the history of our people on these shores as one of the most fantastic, outrageous, unbelievable Chilulei Hashem done in the Haredi community. It is something which I'm telling you, I don't believe Rav Moshe Feinstein, Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky, Rabbi Morenu, or Rabbi Rosenheim, founding executive director of Agudas Yisrael, and the late great Rabbi Shera, despite his errant Shera philosophy, I do not believe that any of them, and all of the above, and many, many hundreds of more of Gedolei Yisrael and Askanim from just a few years ago, a few years ago, would have ever believed the nidrikite, the lowness, boishnu micholam, that we have come to literally in these last few days. And therefore, it's another omer, another counting, which I'll be counting with you. How many me'es le'eses, how many days will it take for the Gedolei Yisrael, the Meyetzes Gedolei HaTorah, and the Agudas Yisrael? How long will it take for them to issue a statement, a clarification, a retraction, and see to it that Simcha Kalisch cleans up the vomit that he vomited out, that has been seen by hundreds of thousands or perhaps millions of people. And I will explain to you. But the Chilul Hashem started around Monday, and it is now Wednesday night. And this is the difference, Rabbi Sai, a teaching moment. This is the difference between this newspaper I'm holding up, the Jewish Press that I'm holding up in front of the screen, this week's Jewish Press, and Rabbi Sai, and I'm holding up to you this week's weekly Hamodia, the Maisa Kuf Ba'alma, the propagandist machine for Agudas Yisrael. I wonder if Rabbi Levin, the Gera, who was the father, the father, who was in charge of Hamadia, I think, in Eretz Yisrael. Father of the owner today of Mrs. Ruth Lichtenstein. So sie seien gesund. I wonder if in the Olam HaEmes, where there's no bluff, how he feels about this propaganda piece. Look at the size of it. It takes up 2/3 of a page of Kiss Up Chazarai. This came out today and Wednesday. That means the paper went to bed. It was printed sometime Tuesday. Okay? And how come the Jewish press, which also came out on Wednesday and was printed on Tuesday? The Jewish press had time for the following article. Let's compare the articles of the Jewish press and the article of the Heilige Hamodia. Hamodia. It's Modna and it's Mod because it's from Modna faces. It's besmirching us. Let me show you Meir Rabbi Sai. Let's see if we can find this here. Trying to find this. I can't believe that I can't believe. Let me see if it's on page 9. Let's see, Rabbi Sai. I'm sorry. I apologize for this lack of professionalism. No, I'm having a difficulty finding the article of Tzalachis. The article of the Culture Dispatch. The article discusses the betrayal, the horrific Chazarai that Simcha Kalisch did, and it points it out exactly. Masha'en Kain, Hamadia has a 2/3 of a page, total kiss up. Here it is, my friend. Better late than never, I apologize. Page 21. I'm holding it up, page 21. Half a page in the Jewish press on page 21. Let me read you the title. Orthodox legislator voices support for Roe versus Wade. Again, dispatch from the Culture War Front by Benjamin Feinberg, a weekly feature in the Jewish press. It's very interesting. The Jewish press is run by people who are modern Orthodox, but Cheleim La'araisa, they are doing such a gewaldige job, and we owe them so much, Rabbi Sai. Why can't Hamadia? Why can't the rest of them? Let's counter the Omer. How long is it going to take for the great intellectuals, Reb Jeff Adlerstein, Rabbi Eitan Kobri, the great writers? Where's Rabbi Nosson Sherman? Where is it going to be to clean up the mess? Tavoy ha'aim, let Mother Aguda, let our writers, our intelligentsia, our social commentators, let's see which one is and can explain why they are potter in the face of such a massive Chil Hashem, of the deafening silence that was already pierced by the Rosh Varisha, Davinenu, the Rosh Varisha, the Dover Kedusha should be the ultra Haredi papers, the Yated, the Hamadiyah, Anech, the Gitar Kiss-Ups. It's the Jewish press, the modern Orthodox. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol niyeh b'dvaroi. Rabbi, I usually try to make my bracha before. I apologize, I forgot to do it. So let me tell you the Ma'aseh Shahaya Kachoya. In the most densely populated Orthodox Jewish district of the Skokie graduate, Rabbi Yechiel Kalisch, who has a stellar career, an intelligent young man who got smicha in Skokie. And he went on to work at a certain point for years for Agudas Yisro. And he was one of their top people in terms of getting along, acting as a liaison, eventually in Chicago, but maybe even he was on top of other states, if I remember correctly. And he's a very gifted and talented person. He spoke at Aguda conventions. He's a point man for them. And then in around 2013, he parlayed his experiences in government and lobbying, etc., I'm sure into a nice parnasa when he made something called S4 to work for the many nursing home owners and for the benefit of the nursing homes, which, according to the articles, it employs a fair amount of Frumayidin. Fine, very good. Why not? Gesundheit. And he continued to do for Aguda, an activist, a spokesman. So after around 20 years or so or more, a guy named Lang, Lou Lang, or whatever his name is, he got reelected, and 2 weeks after the election, or a few weeks after the election, he announced his retirement. There's some, maybe a whiff of scandal. Very modern, he should win re-election and then retire, but who cares? We're not talking about him and the scandals that he might have. Officially, he's going into lobbying, etc., etc. But you understand how all these things work politically. And there's not a re-election, but rather the committee of three, him and another guy, Ira Silverstein, who might be a state senator or was a state senator. In other words, Jewish liberals, and one other guy there, an alderman, and they're the committee to decide. And they interviewed and they decided. Yechiel Kalisch consulted with Yisro Askanim. He threw his yarmulke into the ring 2 weeks ago, and he got the job Sunday night. They gave him the job, and he was sworn in. Lou Lang, Silverstein, these are guys who are socially liberal and voted for liberal Chazarai. And the Chicago Sun-Times heralded the fact that a pro-choice rabbi is taking over the seat. And Kalisch says to them, I don't know if he was asked to say it so much, as me'es chazisel is written from board, Kalisch says, the law of the land is Roe versus Wade, in other words, abortion on demand, and I'm going to uphold the law. I'm not here, he said, in Politico. Politico is a website that all of the media across the country, Politico for politics, they look there. It's seen, read by tens, if not hundreds of thousands or more. Many of the thousands of radio and TV personalities and commentators who write articles, they look every day to see what's tutzach in Politico. And Politico had us, if the Chicago Sun-Times, which came out either on Monday or Tuesday, if the Chicago Sun-Times wasn't bad enough in that he said, I'm for Roe versus Wade, and I believe in a strong separation between church and state. That is the claptrap of the liberal Jews and liberal Gentiles. The separation of church and state, which is something Jeffersonian, was only said basically in regards to the establishment of a state religion like the King of England's Protestantism, the Church of England. It was never said to try to take away the special status that religious belief has been ensconced in America from the time it was colonial and throughout the founding fathers. There was references to the deity, to God, in God we trust, God bless America, the Declaration of Independence, inalienable rights given by God, and so on and so forth. Washington in his pronouncements, etc., etc. Abraham Lincoln being Geyser Tinus, they were so biblical, and on and on. And this Oisvarf has to repeat the claptrap. I believe in the strongest separation in church and state. He's trying to give a rationale now that he's wearing the yarmulke of a legislator at the sign that pipes with the pipes. He has to be more liberal. He says there won't be any difference. It will be seamless, he tells Politico. You won't be able to tell the difference between the voting record of me, Kalisch, and my predecessor, Lang, who is a social liberal. And this quote from an unnamed Democrat source, if he has the chutzpah to do the wrong thing on the moral issues, he'll be primary real fast. For this, we need a from Yid in office. They deduce clearly from what he said in Politico. They said, homosexual marriage, the LBTQRXTUWXYZ agenda, that he's going to do it. Women's rights and this and that, the ganze Sach. Oy lonu shebi yomeinu, we see such a chilul Hashem. And machvivayichem hesayach, not from a modern Orthodox person we don't have control, not from an Upper West Side, not from the Chatzkel Luxstein Avi Weiss crowd. No, from the Haredi Agudas Yisrael. You understand, I've been talking about this for 40 years. Didon Notzach. I don't say it with pride. I say it with sorrow, but I say it as an affirmation that my Rabbein, the Einei Ha'eda, going back a full 40 years ago and more, they knew and they understood. But that the dangers of the whole Schmutz movement, when Rav Avigdor Miller started something, a grassroots called the Jewish Anti-Abortion League, mamish in the early 70s, and he sent me and encouraged me to go speak in Washington, which I did at the March for Life, where Ben Shapiro spoke last week, and made a Moedik Kiddush Hashem, Baruch Hashem. I was speaking there for over 30 years. This was from Rev Miller. This was from our Rabbein. And Rev Miller was so strong on the Gayach's issue, on the Mishkav Zacha agenda. And we see how far it's going. Now we're going to count how long is it going to take. The Chilul Hashem, the reflection, the Din v'cheshbon. The Din is the actual thing, and the Cheshbon is the outcome. How can we ever be the genius out of the bottle? The impression has been formed to tens and thousands of hundreds of thousands of people who've seen the Chicago Times. They've seen the political article. They're formulating opinions. Every single low-life politician, scum, media garbage, sees the Jewish rabbi who they herald as the first rabbi in a legislature, and certainly in Illinois and Springfield. He's called the representative, the equivalent of an assemblyman in New York, is a rabbi, an ordained rabbi. Okay? So here you have the Jewish press criticizing it and allowing it to be printed. They're right on top of it. They didn't get Politico, which came out a day later, but they already knew the Chicago Sun-Times, and the writer wrote about it clearly. And here you have the same paper that comes out, Hamadiyah, a whole page kissing up the Kalisch, it's Moedik, it's Gewaldik, etc. Did Hamadiyah give us the real news? No. Let's see, is it going to be in the next week's issue? Is it going to be in the Daily Hamadiyah? Let's see if they can ever tell us. No, but Machana Große Schweig. The Haimis from Hamadiyah are the last ones to know. We have to find out. Baruch Hashem, that is a Torah Chadasha. Now that Rav Eli Yisvei has passed on, and other Gedolei Yisrael who are upset about the internet, you understand? So now that our good is on it, and they tweet and schmeet every single tweet and schmitt, so therefore we're allowed to go on the internet. So therefore we're allowed to become educated. Will Yeshiva World News write about this? Will the rabbis, the hidden rabbis behind it, will they say anything about it? Don't hold your breath, Rabbi Say. Take out your pen for the first phone number. I think the first phone number of Agudas Yisrael of America, if I remember correctly. If not, I'm sure you can find it. 212-797-9000. 212-797-9000. Ask to speak to the secretary of the Novominsk's office. Speak respectfully and ask, was tutzich with what he said? Is this the viewpoint of the Gedolei Yisrael of Aguda, of the Nesius, of the Rabbanim? It doesn't have to be an Aguda Rav. This is a Chilul Hashem for each and every one of us. And if there's anybody who has mishpach in Chicago, the Chicago rabbinate, starting with the distinguished Malamakam of his father, Rav Avram Chaim Levin, the Heintig Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Levin, and Rabbi Keller. So Zayzan Gesund of Chicago tells, they are like the Morida Astra now of the city, and they're very stark Aguda affiliated. Will they speak out? Will they talk out and be menaka this Chilul Hashem? The Kitrug on Klal Yisrael is unbelievable, but Hashem is so much a reflection. You want to understand why we might not win this thing with the yeshivas? Look what's going on here. How can we go in good conscience and make a tumult about 801A? So Rav Yankel Bender wrote a beautiful op-ed piece in the Times of Albany, very well written. I'm proud of it. And amongst the inyanim, he listed They're going to try to teach diversity in our schools. The concern with that is that Rabbi Bender himself did not fully understand, and he certainly didn't explain that this thing of the diversity of the Amalek agenda is in a class by itself. And that's the eager things that they'll push. And it's sittered that maybe there should be a compromise. The Jewish press that I've often said you could buy mice with your Meiser money. So the Jewish press has Devorah Waxman or Wasteman or whatever speaking from England, and she has a whole quote there again. She has a whole quote this week in the Jewish press again. They're doing this. You're not seeing this stuff in Hamadiyah and Yated. You're not seeing this kind of stuff. Devorah Waxman, I think her name is. So she writes, most Jewish school students are Haredi, and she quotes even Rabbi Avram Pinta, who's a prominent mechanech of Chinuch UK, that he says he can't take issue with Shraga Stern, the Hasidic activist who is unilaterally taking actions against Ofsted and the Department of Education in England, and has threatened that Yidden might have to leave. And Rabbi Pinta himself said, I might have to tell my children if they want to leave the country, they're going to have to leave the country. Wake up, America. You understand? Why is this happening? I once traveled to England. For one day I was there. I was trying to meet with Rabbanim to see that they should go at that time and fight some of the Gayach stuff that was going on. I was left to go around with a black gentleman, a legislator of some kind, a low-level legislator, and I appeared on a Christian TV program. They didn't do enough in England then. So instead now, Chief Rabbi Merwis has to write that are approved by Keshet, the homosexual Orthodox organization nationally, internationally, that's pushing the schmutz. This is what's happening. The same thing is happening in New York State. How could we expect siyata d'shmaya when the yeshivas are under attack? And the main reason, which Inayin lehem v'lo yiro, is because of the homosexual agenda, because of 801A that was upgraded in 2010, and it lay dormant, but it was a poison pill. And now it's emerged with the Department of Education sent somebody an email where they responded, yes, it applies to yeshivas and private schools. And I don't know if Rabbi Yankel Bender understands the full implication and ramifications. The biggest enemy, the ones, ERA was not successful for 40 years for the women's rights, but the Mishkav Zachor at the same time gained marriage, and they're now pushing transgendered bathrooms that recently passed in New York State. As New York State goes, so goes the country. And who voted for this garbage? The Frum Daniel Rosenthal, the assemblyman from Queens. Where are the Rabbanim in Queens? Who is going to be potter from these things? What's going on here? The inmates are running the asylum, Rabbi Sai. That's what's going on, Rabbi Sai. There you have it. Now, let's go weiter here. I want to tell you something. This program should be a schus for Fushleima for Avi Mori Avram ben Yishayahu ben Chayarezel, Imi Roshi Masha Bas Matel, Ani Hakotn Yehuda ben Masha. And as I mentioned last week, there's a young boy, Yisro Meir, and Daphne Bruria, who needs your Fushleima. Also, Yisro Yehuda ben Etel Bela. Tabi, I want to thank him again for his outstanding contribution to my avodas hakodesh and what I'm doing. He should be gebenched. And also there should be for Fushleima, my aunt Etel Bas Matel, B'toich Shar Choyle Yisrael. Now, let's discuss something. For too long, we've had this situation where each of these politicians, they have the secret rabbanim. We're not allowed to know who it is. We're not allowed to know who the rabbi behind Hamadiyah is, although we have a good idea who it is. It's probably the Gerer Rabbi of Flatbush, Rabbi Cohn probably. But we're not allowed to know officially who's the Das Torah of the different newspapers. We're not allowed to know who Chaim Deutsch's Das Torah is. We're not allowed to know which Dayan or Simcha Eichenstein speaks to. Okay? But I want to explain something to you. Do you think that if a person calls up some Rav or Dayan or Magid Shir or Big Lamden, okay? Rav Lezer Shach, as I've said often, when he gave a haskama to the brilliant Gaon, Rabbi Cohen, who had a photographic memory before the computer, has written so many svarim going back to Tafshin Lamed Gimel, Tafshin Mem, and Pesach Shavuos, and on all kinds of things, Moedik HaKolis Kelim, with thousands of Mayim footnotes on tzitzis, on tefillin, v'chulei. So Rav Shach wrote, the Godla Dor two back, he wrote, I'm not holding the sugya. I'm not holding the sugya. Do you think just because a person's a Rav or a Dayan or Rosh Yeshiva, he knows the intricacies of what's going on in Albany and the whole Yelech and the slice of salami technique, did he understand that 201 was festering, 801A, I'm sorry, was festering from 2010 when they upgraded it? And then they didn't make it clear whether it applies to yeshivas or public schools, where they said you have to teach civility and tolerance and respect for diversity, that now 8-9 years later it's going to come to the fore. Do they understand how the evil Rishoyim work? Do they understand that the Dayan cross-examined Simcha Eichenstein to ask him, tell me Simcha, like I told him that night that he was going to announce his candidacy, he was kind enough to give me 45 minutes, and I was trying to get him to declare he's going to be a strong fighter against the schmutz, which would mean standing up and talking, Simcha. It's not enough if you vote and you're quiet. Don't tell me what kind of pressure you're under from Democrats. Boo-hoo-hoo, I'm crying for you, Simcha. You're under such pressure from all the Democrats to vote for gender and for to ASA conversion therapy, which is a misnomer. It's not conversion therapy. It's reparative therapy, to repair them and bring them back to normalcy. The Menuvolim, the Rishoyim Arurim, the homosexual activists who play with the etymology, with the terminologies and Orwellians speak. They're the ones who labeled it conversion therapy. And we fall into the trap by using the words gay, and we fall into the trap by using the words conversion therapy. Afula pume. So, Simcha Eichenstein, he voted the right way in these two bills. He voted the right way in an abortion bill. That's a ritzicha, that they said, klar, decriminalize the act of abortion under any circumstances. So I told you this last week. So if the father gives a poison pill to the mother, okay, it's not a crime of abortion anymore. And you can say it's not even an assault. He didn't punch her. He didn't hit her. And if a baby survives an abortion, let's give a big hand to Simcha Eichenstein. He voted against the bill. He voted against the bill that if the baby survives a botched abortion, you're allowed to kill the baby. By the way, the Menuvolim Rishoyim Arurim in the assembly chamber, when they passed the bill, there's a video going around on townhall.com that shows they all got up and started screaming and cheering for Ritzicha. And then you see the comments of tens of Gentiles. What kind of a business is this? You're cheering for Ritzicha. They're talking from a raid like Halavai, our people should talk. They're talking the commentaries, the commenters on this thing. Thousands of thousands going, a black football player sent a highly critical tweet against Governor Cuomo that this is Ritzicha. Did Simcha Eichenstein get up and say, I'm representing the Orthodox community and I'm representing religious people? And that even Ed Koch and even Patrick Moynihan in the 1990s, when they came out with the term partial birth abortion, to abort a baby in the last trimester, Koch and Moynihan, who are big abortion supporters, wrote and stated, we're pro-abortion, but this is already Ritzicha. And now they're talking about a baby surviving a botched abortion. You can kill it, and everybody's clapping. And Simcha Eichenstein did not get up and speak about it. You don't think he's going to have to give a din b'cheshbon? Why? Because he's not going to be able to get his money if he speaks. Who's in charge of the cashness? Who's in charge of the money? Who does he have to find chen and seichel, nimsa chen, the seichel tei bein elikim v'adam? When Esther went into Achashverosh, she was talking to the Melech, but she was talking to the Melech Malchei Amlochim, Simcha. Was wird das in der Teuve Zeidis gesagt? So, there was a bill. So again, I don't give credit to Eichenstein for voting the right way. That's ground zero. You want to knip and beckel? Get the blank out of the assembly. I'm telling you, there was a debate between Dr. Bernard Frischman years ago in Jewish Observer, and Rabbi Tursky, who was at one point the dean of a law school. And Rabbi Tursky said it's good to have Jewish representatives in public office. And he said, no, Dr. Frischman has been proven right. This is the errant philosophy, okay? And now we see that Simcha Kalisch has gone further than any modern Orthodox, than anyone. Nat Lewin had a son-in-law there. Dov Heiken occasionally and Simcha Felder occasionally voted for garbage. But this kind of embrace in the papers before day one, hey, you know where Simcha is now? He ran to Eretz Yisrael to join the Aguda, what do you call it, Yarchi Kala, and to get brachas from Gedolim. Ha! I would wonder when he gets that picture with Reb Chaim Kanievsky, if they tell Reb Chaim Kanievsky what he said in Politico in Chicago Sun-Times. The silence of the Gedolei Yisrael is a kitruk for Klal Yisrael. We must ask, I don't care if you're in your Huppitz, your local Rav, it could be in Cleveland, it could be in Chicago, it could be having no shaykhs with Agud, it could be a Hasidic Rav. Everybody is mechuyev. The whole Beis Yisrael yifkos hasreifa azois and have to be menaka the Chilul Hashem. Ma'ariv Rabbi, I'm pleading with you again. Simrowitz, the Russian Marusha. Simrowitz is an assemblyman and part of Flatbush. Simrowitz was challenged and almost defeated within hundreds of votes. He was almost defeated by a fellow named Kayon, who made an issue out of a much less abortion bill, much less toxic than the one that says that a baby who survives an abortion, you can let it die. Much less Ritzicha and Hayon. And then there was the Russian person, Ben Axelrod. Both of them almost won. But Aguda, who? Simcha Lefkowitz, Shmuel Lefkowitz, and that great tzaddik that we love so much, Chatzkele tweet, Chaim Bennett, and Leon Moneybags Goldberg, who has his Community Matters. They went and they pushed Simrowitz, and he won by a few hundred votes. Din v'cheshbon of the Gra, Din is on that, Maisa, cheshbon is in the ripple effects. Who takes responsibility that in a rather densely populated area of Flatbush that Simrowitz feels that he has no problem, he can go Beresh Gilei and he can vote for any schmutz he wants now. Where the blank are Agudas Yisrael to put the screws on him, even on the Ritzicha bill? Were they there? I don't know. Was Reb Yerucham even in Albany during the vote on Tuesday? I don't know. What lobbying was done? I begged him to lobby. I don't know if he did or not. Okay? You know who else voted the wrong way on this Ritzicha? You know who else voted the wrong way on stuff? Rosenthal voted the wrong way on certain bills. He voted the wrong way. On the gender and the therapy bill, he voted the wrong way. Last week and this week, he voted on certain abortion bills also the wrong way. Where is Rabbi Welcher? Where is Rabbi Peretz Steinberg? Where is Rabbi Schoenfeld? Where is Rabbi Noach Isaac Albaum? Where is the young Israel Rabbi of Hillcrest? Where is the rabbinate to let this Russia Mirusha? How do you call him? He's a nice guy, Levin. How do you call him? Because something, the Gemara in Erevin Daf Kuf says that if there wouldn't be a Torah, we could learn. We could learn sneers from a cat, and we could learn arayus from a yoina. A yoina is steadfast and faithful. That's why Klal Yisrael is called Yonosi Tamasi, my pure dove. Okay? So therefore, it's pashit. A pashit avayis is ritzicha. It's not a chayk. It's shayfach tamadim va'adam dami yishavach even for b'nei noach. Tosfos says a kal v'chayim is anything that's also for a Gentile, it's mutter for a Jew. And there's a philosophy behind it. Where and how does this Russia, Mirusha, he's kind, he's nice, he does chesed, the Rotel is formed with good intentions. There's an oisvav. Now, what did Simcha Eichenstein do when the Chicago Sun-Times came out on Monday with the article from Kalisch that he said, I'm for Roe versus Wade, it's the law of the land, and I believe Trump. He tweeted it out. Now, you don't have to be a rocket scientist, that Simcha Eichenstein is tweeting this out. Well, he didn't tweet out the congratulatory kiss-up statement of Agudas Yisrael, how proud we are that it appears in Hamadiyah or something like that. He tweeted out the Chicago Sun-Times. He was showing that it's now official that Aguda, the people who he consults with on how to vote, that their guy, Kalisch, is a choyti or machtes aram, and now Simcha Eichenstein is a tzaddik compared to Kalisch. Kalisch says he supports Roe versus Wade. By the way, you know what days these things happened? Monday was Martin Luther King Day. Okay, that was the day he gave already his interview to Chicago Sun-Times. Martin Luther King, yeah, with all the kindness on him in his personal life and that he was pro-communist, but he was, I mean, I'm not going to get into it. He did gewaltig for his people and everything else. I'm not commenting. Don't take me out of proportion, out of context. I'm just saying that he was very strongly against abortion, Martin Luther King. So Martin Luther King, with all his personal flaws, preached and spoke against abortion. January the 22nd was the Roe versus Wade. The president of the United States addressed the crowd through a tape at the March for Life. Ben Shapiro, the Baal Tshuva, Orthodox spoke with a Moed Hashem. Vice President Pence came down and spoke personally at the March for Life or at their rose dinner or whatever it was. But on these very days, Simcha HaKadosh, Kalisch, the Agudis for so many years, gezapt with Agudis Yisro, the representative of Das Torah, Torah makes Chil Hashem, and the silence of the lambs of Tzoyin Kodshim is deafening. Are you going to do something, Rabbi Sai? Lo Yishakek, we will not be quiet as long as HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me the koyach. Do you think Rabbi Brudny or Rabbi Reisman know anything about it? We're counting the Omer. Has anybody told them about 801A and the centrality yet? Is somebody, hello? Can somebody out there tell Rabbi Brudny or Rabbi Reisman about 801A? Enough with these secret rabbis. Simcha Eichens, he spoke to a Dayan. I guarantee you, I don't care what kind of Talmud Chacham is, the Dayan from Borough Park, or from wherever he is, doesn't begin to know what's going on in Albany and nefarious stuff. Okay? Now, by the way, you have to understand, they're out to get us. I want you to know the Israeli consulate, to switch to another subject, the Israeli consulate is a landlord in Manhattan, and part of what they do is they rent out to an abortion clinic. So Erlich Goyim come out in the cold and everything else, and they protest against the abortion clinic. This is Eretz Yisrael, Israel, Israeli government. They wanted the Gentiles, the devout Catholics and evangelicals, who are the biggest supporters of the state of Israel, they need desperately. But these Goyim, these Gentiles are finding out. How do I know? I was called this week by an 82-year-old Gentile on Oni Sheba Amniyim. At 82 years old, he doesn't have a penny. Mamish doesn't have a penny. He begs for food. And he goes out there and is protesting against the Israeli government that they have an abortion clinic. Rabbi Sai, you want to make a Kiddush Hashem, you call up the Israeli consulate and you say, shame on you. You're supporting stuff that even of abortion clinics, and now with this new abortion law, it's mamish ritzicha sheberitzicha and botched abortions, you can leave the baby, etc., etc. It's such a chil Hashem, and it's such a turnoff to the Gentiles. And they called me up to say, Rabbi, what can we do about it? What am I supposed to tell them? I gave them advice what to do. I'll discuss it in a few weeks. But whoever wants to be koinei lemhaba to call up the Israeli consulate and say, we're turned off, get rid of that. Why does the Israeli consulate have to do this? And then the Israelis want siyata d'shmaya when they're fighting for Jewish lives against terrorism and everything else. Where's the midah connected midah? Oxen, idiots, what they are. Okay? Okay, there's something called the Reproduction Non-Discrimination Act, which is sponsored by the Rishas from Muncie, the assemblywoman who supports a lot of garbage and is anti-the Fruma community. And she twinned this with the abortion with Tzitcha bill. The abortion with Tzitcha bill was one of a series of bills they voted for the same day on Tuesday, Dafka on the anniversary of Roe versus Wade. You understand? They're pushing it even more. And this abortion, this Reproductive Non-Discrimination Act, basically, Simcha Eichens, was on the phone for a long time, and he voted, he spoke, I'm sure he spoke to this Knack and Aguda, and he spoke to Simcha Felder, who voted, and Simcha, the two Simchas, made a bechia, and they voted for the reproductive non-discrimination. They said, you know why? We need to do this because this is going to help a woman. If a Fruma woman is in a job and she becomes pregnant and the boss wants to fire her, they say that, she can't do it. You can't do it. So it's good. We told him, he was told that maybe a Beis Yaakov girls' school will have a lady who's teaching English or something like that, that teaching English might not be covered by religious studies, and one day she'll go and she's a fry or whatever it is, and she'll come to the 6th grade class and they'll see, what happened to your stomach? You had your baby, Mrs. Smith? No, I had an abortion. What's an abortion? They tell her. And according to this law now, you can't discriminate, you can't fire her. So I'm sure Eichenstein says, what do you mean? So what do you mean? You don't have to worry about that because there's a law, a federal law, etc., that you shouldn't be able to discriminate against this and that. I'm sorry, you can't butt into the Jewish schools. Who said there's such a law? Who said it mamish applies? And you know how these things change. Like I'm showing you 801A change. So he's being soimich to vote for a law which was sponsored by Jaffe and voted for overwhelmingly by all the pro-aborts there, even though it doesn't mention abortion, but that's the way they play the game. Either Eichenstein is stupid, he doesn't have seichel, or he's being duplicitous, but he's not representing us because I'm explaining to you this does damage, and this is going to be used to make abortion even stronger, that you can't discriminate. You know, there's the Me Too movement of the ladies because of Bill Cosby and Harvey Weinstein. All the ladies are attacked. Now every lady comes out and she says how she was attacked by the media and how she was attacked by Hollywood and this whole Me Too movement. So part of it was a codicil, an ancillary to this was shout out for abortion, like they did in the New York State Assembly. You see the video there from Town Hall. They're screaming when they pass the Ritzicha bill. You understand? So this is part and parcel. And if Eichenstein is not smart enough to understand, so Eichenstein is saying we need to fazorg that the frumal lady for that case. So this is going to promote non-discrimination against abortion. It's going to kasher more and more, and it's Ritzicha Harugis Ubarim, sai for Yidden, non-frum ladies who are going to get it. I'm sorry to tell you, for frum ladies who are getting abortions with all kinds of heterim, and certainly for the Gentiles to vote for a bill that overwhelmingly does harm, because maybe Simcha Eichenstein says it will help for certain people, for certain frum women, for a handful. So he's kaveya with his brain trusts and the Askonim from Agudas Yisro and Simcha Felder, and he consulted with his Dayan who doesn't know his head from his foot. I can promise you about the legislative process and how they work and how it's a slice of salami and the evildoers, and he doesn't understand it. Did he cross-examine Eichenstein? Did he say to Eichenstein, let me hear from the opposition, from a guy like Yehuda Levin or other people who know the other side? We look at the Gentiles, we see why are the Gentiles opposing this thing? Okay, so guess what? So there's a city law. I can give you a chapter and verse, but I'm not going to even waste my time. There's actually a city law, and the city law says very, very quickly, the city law already and the state law already, it's in the human rights of the state law. It speaks about familial, and it touches up familial as being somebody who's pregnant who has a child, and it says, Chloe, you can't. So there's already a state law to protect those Orthodox women. And even if there wasn't a state law, who says that if the overwhelmingly this is going to be Mila onto a pedestal, abortion, without mentioning the word abortion, you say reproductive is not even Yavin, what they're trying to do. You understand? And it was packaged together with the Ritzicha bill. So Simcha Eichenstein voted the wrong way with Simcha Felder, and there are representatives. We don't have Siyata Dishmaya, and I'm giving you this as an example. I warned you before about David Greenfield, and he was an Oisrof. I called him a Nachash. I'm warning you on Simcha Eichenstein. He's not such an Oisrof. He wants to do the right thing. He wants to have an easy time. He doesn't understand his Mechuyev. That's dying. Doesn't tell him you have to get up and speak about family values, because you have to be pilot. You have to push out, not be Balea, and you're representing the community. You have to speak out. You have to become associated with family values. You have to be the standing Kiddush Hashem, not like Yechiel Kalisch, who you're tweeting out to show from the Chicago sometimes he can get along and be Roe versus Wade. And Simcha Eichenstein is a tzaddik compared to the Oisrof Kalisch. Boy, oh boy, I wouldn't want to have the chelik of Hapa. So Simcha Eichenstein was told there's an Ovos to Rabbeinu Nosson. The Ovos to Rabbeinu Nosson towards the end says something about those who don't have Gan Eden. And one of those who doesn't have Gan Eden is a Dayan in the ear who goes the wrong way. This Dayan who's giving advice to Simcha, and Simcha who's going and acting on the advice. I would be tittering if I was them. It's not Pashut, Rabbi Isai. We're in a very, very, very bad matzav. Let's see what else. Okay, the both side. Moving right along. Moving right along. I told you about this human rights thing, so I'll tell you. The human rights is Section 292 and Section 296 of the executive law, and it clearly familial. It extends to protecting women. Simcha Eichenstein had no right to vote for this. He doesn't see all his life. If Simcha Eichenstein doesn't understand how it's nishtal, first they put a dormant poison pill, like Section 801A. I'll give you an example. Kalisch, they made a gay rights law. But at the beginning, when Kalisch made the gay rights law, he realized he was facing opposition from the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Jews, which I was one of the main leaders at that time. So what did Kalisch do? He gave an exemption that the gay rights laws with the hiring and this and that didn't apply to religious institutions. So guess what? It took 20 or 30 years. They took out the religious exemption. So any idiot who would support, this is what Eichenstein's doing. This is what they're doing. We can support it because right now in the face we don't see. And I believe the people who told me, etc., etc. Last year when they introduced this bill, they said Klor. They told Eichenstein when they introduced the bill last year, somebody said Edis Klor, one of the sponsors, etc., said Kach Bakach. Eichenstein said, but now they didn't say it. It doesn't mean anything what they said. It doesn't mean the intent. It's all the Terutzim. All the Terutzim not to do the right thing, get along, yeah. And it's all justified for the geld. Simcha Kalisch said the law of the land is the law of the land. But he's going to fight for tuition tax credits and this and that. And he quoted some kind of a thing and tell me, Simcha, if it's the law of the land in New York State, Blaine Amendment here, that you're not allowed to mix money, etc., etc. So you're such a servant. The law of the land applies by Roe versus Wade. It applies by gay marriage. Simcha, I don't want to say Afro-Lukumi in the year. It applies here. But for geld for the nursing homes, and for geld for this thing, even if there's a law, if there's a this, if there's a that, of separation church and state, that you don't hold, simply. Right, because you know where your bread is buttered. You know, you're promoting the Sheret doctrine, Geld über alles, Geld über Gott, the errant Rabbi Sher philosophy. Thank you very much. Believe me, Rabbi Sher is plotting the Olam Eves for this, as is Rabbi Rosenheim, as is all the founders in Katowice of Agudas Yisrael for the churban that this has become, for the whoring, for the harlotry, for the Esrog Zoinigkeit that this has become. We needed him to be, it's a great day for us. We needed him in Chicago. Yeah, Rabbi Say. The final 7-8 minutes. Chaim Deutsch. Chaim Deutsch wanted to do a favor. Remember, there were people beaten up and everything else, and he wanted to do something for anti-Semitism. So Chaim Deutsch went and he introduced a bill, and it was a twin bill, a hate crimes division of education control, and making a whole new bureaucracy. A new bureaucracy, by the way, it says that Meir de Blasio is going to have a lot of a yad. Meir de Blasio was married to a lesbian who pushes everything schmutz and transgender bathrooms and everything else. Meir de Blasio is going to get his talofim, his talents, his paws onto this as well. Now, Deutsch was sitting there in November when Deutsch himself was interviewing a big knocka from the police, and there was a lady there from the Human Rights Campaign who was being asked questions by Carabrera, who's officially somebody who's pro-morality from the Bronx, and he's already also compromised a vote for many schmutz bills. And the lady in the Human Rights Commission is saying, chapter and verse in front of Chaim Deutsch, he's doing us a favor, he's throwing us a sop, and he's making that in the school system they should go all over, and they should teach tolerance and everything else. And Chaim Deutsch says, maybe the people don't know what a swastika is, and I want you to go into all the schools and teach and everything else. And what are they going to use this for? Is it going to reduce anti-Semitism? Is all the Holocaust studies that they're having and everything else? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not sure if it's bad or it's good. I'm not sure if should we be pushing this in Kalisch. But the Lamaisa, guess what? With all the years of Holocaust studies, especially in New York, etc., in New York, we're complaining that it's an increase in anti-Semitism. We don't understand the Ruchnius and the Rhein. Why? Maybe it's because we're making kutchini with the immorality, and God lamachtia yosem and a hargai. So therefore Hashem gives us a bechin of hargai, a bechin of physical anti-Semitism. So Chaim Deutsch is going to solve the problem. How? By working with low-life scum to create a whole new bureaucracy. We're going to get over, and Chaim is going to say, And he was sitting there, and he's going to vote for this thing. He's going to vote, and he's going to come back, and they're going to put in the stupid Haim Hamadia. You see, Chaim Deutsch is fighting anti-Semitism. Now we're going to teach all the Gentiles in public school what a swastika is if they can only know. And if you can identify that they have mental problems, we're going to be able to stop the case of anti-Semitism. Here's a fantastic statistic. Okay, 1/3 of the crimes, I'm sorry, the biggest amount of crimes of hate is anti-Semitism. You understand? So that's a heta for Chaim, even though it's going to have to increase the koyach, the power of the police department and the koyach in education, of further brainwashing the kids with tolerance and creating, it says one of the things in the bill or the sister bill is to create a whole curriculum from K through 12 to teach diversity. Chaim Deutsch is promoting an 801A in the city of New York. And if you say right now it's not applying to the schools, today it's not applying to the schools. Just like by Kacha, originally his gay rights law didn't apply to the Yiddish things, but eventually it just like 801A. So let's give Chaim Deutsch a big hand. What's happening in the state, Chaim Deutsch is trying to get some cheap scores. Either he doesn't have seichel, or he's also duplicitous. He sat there in the committee hearing, and he heard the lady from the Human Rights Commission say how this is going to be used to advance. We shouldn't discriminate, we shouldn't bully, we shouldn't do this, we shouldn't do that. We're going to teach tolerance, diversity, and brainwashing. Chaim Deutsch is responsible. This is maybe the Obvious Rabbeinu doesn't applies to Chaim. Chaim wants me to give him a big hand, which I'll give him a big hand. The City Gay News criticized how anti-schmutz he is, anti-gayas he is. But look here, here's another example I'm showing you. He's kissing up. What did he do 5 years ago? 5 years ago, he voted for a bill that gave the Human Rights Commission money to have phony people coming to try to rent apartments and then to entrap people who wouldn't rent to people who looked homosexual. That's what Chaim Deutsch did. Now he's doing the same thing again. Chaim, I'm very disappointed with you. And Chaim, if they didn't pass the bill yet, even though you sponsored it, you did it obviously, you should vote against the bill because it's going far. It's like you're buying a doggy to protect your premises, but the dog is a chayira, it's going to bite everybody all around it. So you're doing more damage to protect, so to speak, from anti-Semitism. You understand? You're going to protect by being machazik the whole agenda. And the Mishkei Zach are laughing at this, sleeves at you. Your good friend Drum, your good friend, they're laughing at you. And your Corey Johnson, who you take pictures at the Kaisel, they're laughing at you. Just like when there was the Veterans Bill, with the homosexual stuff with the Veterans Bill, and you were conveniently not there. They gave you the chair. They make a joke out of you. They put you in a committee in charge of veterans, you understand? A joke. And then they do a gay thing, the veterans, and you have to pack out and make sure you're not there at the time. You're conveniently somewhere else. Chaim, wake up and smell the coffee. I'm telling you, there was a time years ago when I wanted to be in public office, and my mother, she told me, there's no place for a good Jewish boy. And you see it again and again. There's no place for a good Jewish boy. Okay. What else? Basically, Rabbi Say, we seeing time and time again. This is intro 1261A that Chaim Deutsch sponsored. Okay, and I told you about the hate crimes already. And there's another sister bill, Bill 1234, which Deutsch voted for it. It's sponsored by the extreme leftists, and it's going to make a new office of anti-hate crimes. You understand? And this is what Chaim Deutsch, and it's going to give de Blasio a lot of koyach, and there's going to be a whole curriculum. I'm repeating myself. This is what's going on. Rabbi said you have to understand. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has a bitter sense of humor. Hashem says, these are Shlichei Tzibur. Felder, Deutsch, Eichenstein, Kalisch, Rosenthal, Rabbi Say, it's a churban. Dr. Frischman is right. Better we should have a low key in Golis and have a good religious Gentile who's going to stand up, a good evangelical, a good black Baptist. You understand? Let them do it enough. We don't need Orthodox. Time and time again, we have never seen an Orthodox Jew who hasn't made a tremendous chil Hashem. Rabbi Say, I'm asking you please to take the pen in hand. Take your pen in hand and call up these numbers and tell Simcha Eichenstein we want him to speak out. Tell Simcha Eichenstein 8718-853-9616. Call Simcha Eichens and say, we want you to talk out, speak up for morality. Press conferences, speaking in the assembly, saying you represent the Torah family values, 718-853-9616. Call up Rosenthal. Don't say what district you're in. Say we're embarrassed from you for your pro-abortion, pro-mishkav zacha votes. Call up the rabbis in Queens. Call up Rosenthal at 718-969-1508. 969-1508. Call up Simbrowitz. And it doesn't matter. Simbrowitz cut a deal with the Russian guy, Davidson, that he is going to not oppose him. And so Simbrowitz is not afraid of a primary. He does what he wants. Call up Simbrowitz, 718-743-4078, and say you make one more anti-family vote. We pledge to vote against you. We have to look for a primary candidate against. We need a bright, young Russian lady, articulate at Palestina from. We're looking for a candidate to run in a primary against Simbrowitz, and we'll be machazika, and either we'll beat him or we'll give him a run for his money as an oisraf Rabbi Sai. This is Yehuda Levin. Until this time next week, a guten Tamid, speak to your Abodim, speak to Avodas Yisrael, erase the Chilul Hashem, make a Kiddush Hashem, and we should be zoichet to have children, Yereim V'Shleim Kedoshim Taharim, a guten Tamid, Rabbi Sai.